Close your eyes and picture a tiger. 600 pounds of pure muscle, strong enough to drag a full-grown buffalo through mud like it weighs nothing. Now, picture the biggest wild dog on the planet. Go on, try. Most people land on the gray wolf, the largest wild canine alive today, and even the biggest one on record barely touches 175 pounds. If we widen it to domesticated dogs, the biggest English Mastiff ever recorded hit around 340 pounds. Still nowhere close to a tiger. Nowhere close to a lion. Somewhere on this planet, evolution built a 600-pound cat with muscles that would make a bodybuilder jealous, and then never once bothered building a dog to match it. That should feel strange. Cats and dogs share a common ancestor. Same basic toolkit. Teeth, claws, instinct. They split apart millions of years ago and went in two directions. But only one branch decided to go big. For a long time, the assumption among scientists was simple. It just hadn't happened yet. Nobody had found the fossil. Give it enough time, and somewhere a giant dog would turn up. Then researchers actually sat down and ran the numbers. And what they found wasn't a gap waiting to be filled. It was a wall, a hard biological ceiling that the dog family has slammed into again and again for tens of millions of years, no matter how much time evolution had to work with. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why that wall exists, why one dog did almost break through it, and why the animal that looks the most like a giant dog today isn't even related to dogs at all. Let's start with the detail most people never think about: claws. A cat's claws are retractable. They stay sheathed, protected, kept razor sharp for one single moment: the kill. A wolf's claws are exposed all the time, dragging against dirt and rock, worn down until they're closer to cleats than knives. That one anatomical difference changes the entire hunting playbook. A cat can gamble everything on a single flawless ambush. Sprint, pounce. Claws lock in. Throat closed in seconds. It's a one-move game, and if the cat is strong enough, it wins outright. A dog cannot play that game. Its claws simply aren't sharp enough to pin down and hold something 3 times its own size. So dogs had to solve the exact same survival problem in a completely different way. Not with one perfect strike, but with the chase. Wolves, African wild dogs, painted dogs. They run prey down, sometimes for a mile, sometimes for 10, sometimes for hours until the animal's legs simply give out. And here's the part that should stop you. Size, which is an asset for an ambush predator, becomes a liability for an endurance hunter. Every extra pound of muscle costs a wolf oxygen, costs it heat regulation, costs it stamina over distance. If you've ever noticed that elite marathon runners are lean and elite powerlifters are massive, you've already watched this exact rule play out in your own species. Evolution ran the same experiment on the dog family, and bulk lost every single time. So while cats kept getting rewarded for scaling up, dogs kept getting punished for it. That alone explains a lot. But it doesn't explain why, across thousands of canine species and tens of millions of years, absolutely nothing ever slipped through the crack. Except something almost did. About 9 million years ago, in what is now North America, there lived a creature called Epicyon, part of a now extinct group nicknamed the bone-crushing dogs. Some individuals are estimated at 200 to 300 pounds, with a skull and jaw so heavy that early paleontologists genuinely mistook its fossils for a bear's. This wasn't some distant cousin either. It was a true canine. Just not from the same lineage as modern wolves and foxes. And for a stretch of time, it looked like the exception the whole family had been waiting for. It had the size. It had bone-crushing bite force strong enough to shatter the leg of a prehistoric horse in a single clamp. For a few million years, Epicyon may have been the single most dominant land predator anywhere on the continent, rivaling anything the cat family had produced up to that point. And then it vanished completely, along with the entire family branch it belonged to. So what actually killed the one dog that finally got big? It wasn't a fight it lost. It was math it lost. As true ambush cats spread across the same territory, they were simply more efficient at converting a kill into calories. One perfect pounce burns far less energy than an hours-long chase. Especially for an animal already hauling around 250 pounds of muscle, it now has to feed every single day for the rest of its life. Epicyon had scaled its body up, without ever solving the claw problem underneath it. It became a heavyweight built for a fighting style its own biology was never actually equipped to support. And in a world with limited large prey, that inefficiency became a slow, silent death sentence for the entire line. It's almost poetic. The one time a dog-like animal genuinely rivaled the size of a big cat, it collapsed for the exact same reason cats and dogs diverged from each other in the first place. Size without the right tools isn't an advantage, it's just a bigger mouth to feed. Now here's where the story gets genuinely strange. Because the dog family does have a close relative that did manage to get enormous, it's just not the one you'd expect. Wolves and tigers are only distant relatives, separated near the very root of the carnivore family tree, tens of millions of years ago. But dogs have much closer cousins sitting right next to them on that tree, bears. Both wolves and bears belong to the same broader group, the caniforms, literally the dog-shaped carnivores. And bears did exactly what no wild dog ever managed. A polar bear can weigh over 1,500 pounds. That's heavier than almost any cat that has ever lived, tiger included. So if being dog-shaped wasn't actually the limiting factor, what was? The answer is diet. Bears aren't full-time chase predators. Most of their calories come from fish, plants, roots, and berries. Food that, for the most part, doesn't run away from them. A polar bear can afford to carry enormous bulk because it isn't sprinting after a moving target for 6 hours a day. It waits at a breathing hole for a seal to surface, or it simply eats whatever the environment hands it. A wolf doesn't get that luxury. Every calorie it eats, it earns by running something down over open ground. The second a predator's survival depends on stamina. Instead of ambush or foraging, evolution slams the brakes on body size, completely regardless of which branch of the family tree that predator happens to sit on. And that's the real rule hiding underneath this entire story. It was never actually cats versus dogs. It's ambush and foraging versus pure endurance. Cats specialized hard into ambush. Bears specialized into foraging and opportunism. Wolves specialized into endurance, and endurance, it turns out, is the one hunting style evolution refuses to let scale up. So if size was permanently off the table, wolves needed a different answer. And they found one that, on paper, looks far less impressive, but turned out to be just as powerful. They stayed small, they stayed social, and they leaned all the way into the one weapon a mid-sized predator has that a lone giant never will. Numbers. A single 100-pound wolf cannot take down a bull elk. A pack of 8 can. And they can do it without any single animal needing to carry the size, the risk, or the full caloric cost of the hunt alone. The pack itself became the size. Cooperation did the job that raw bulk does for a tiger. Once that strategy locked in, there was almost no evolutionary pressure left pushing wolves toward bigger bodies at all. Why risk the joints, the metabolism, the sheer caloric overhead of a 400-pound frame when 6 90-pound bodies working together can bring down the same prey with a far wider margin for error? This is also the exact logic researchers point to when explaining why lions are the one glaring exception among big cats. Lions are the only cat species that regularly hunts in coordinated groups, and not coincidentally, they're one of the few cats that never needed pure solitary stealth to succeed, because the pride does for lions roughly what the pack does for wolves. Take the group away from a cat, and give it only the tools of a solitary ambush predator, and biology pushes it toward exactly what we see in tigers, leopards, and jaguars. Bulk, power, silence, one decisive strike. Take the ambush tools away from a dog, and give it only the tools of an endurance hunter, and biology pushes it toward exactly what we see in wolves and painted dogs. Leanness, stamina, cooperation. Two completely different answers to the exact same question. How do you become the apex predator in your ecosystem? One family solved it by getting bigger, the other solved it by getting smarter about who it hunted with. And once a lineage commits hard enough to one of those two strategies, walking it back becomes almost impossible. A wolf built for a 30-mile chase cannot suddenly grow retractable tiger claws in a few thousand generations. There's one more detail buried in this story that trips up almost everyone who looks into it. Hyenas. Spotted hyenas hunt in coordinated packs, run prey down over long distances, and look, by almost any reasonable description, like a rangy, muscular dog. If any living animal looks like the missing giant dog, it's a hyena, except a hyena isn't a dog at all. Genetically, hyenas split off closer to cats, mongooses, and civets than they ever did to wolves. They sit on the feline side of the carnivore family tree, not the caniform branch that dogs and bears belong to. The one animal on Earth that looks the most like a giant pack-hunting dog has been standing on the cat side of the fence this entire time. So what about the Great Danes, the Irish wolfhounds, the English mastiffs, the actual giant dogs you've seen with your own eyes? They exist purely because of us, not millions of years of ecological pressure. A few thousand years of humans deliberately selecting for size in an animal evolution had already decided should stay small. Strip away that breeding and drop a Great Dane back into the wild, and its body carries none of the adaptations that let a wolf run for hours or a tiger kill in seconds. It's a genetic shortcut built by human hands, not by the forces that shaped every other giant predator on this planet. So the real question was never, why don't big dogs exist? One did. It ruled an entire continent for millions of years, and it didn't lose to a rival predator that outfought it. It lost to a smaller, sharper-clawed animal that simply did the same job for less. Its own cousins did manage to get big too. Bears just found a way to do it without ever needing to run. And the family that never tried to get big at all, still here, still hunting, still running prey into the ground 1 mile at a time exactly the same way it has for millions of years. Sometimes the animal that survives isn't the one that got the biggest. It's the one that figured out exactly what it was built for and never stopped doing it.